Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started. Does anybody feel like doing a little trick-or-treating today?
I'm actually already in a costume right now.
Whoa. Didn't even notice.
I'm dressed as a bum. No, I'm not dressed like one. I sure feel like one, though. I feel sick. I feel kind of sick. My throat's going to be off today. My voice might be a little off. I'm just going to throw it out there now.
All right.
I'm actually, today's a good day because I'm dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And as
Really?
you guys know, it's May the 4th be with you.
Oh, that is a perfect reference. Thank you much.
It's Saturday, May 4th right now. That is correct. Thanks for bringing that up.
I might just have to pull out my Ace Ventura costume, you know. That's one that I have on hand here, and I recycle it quite frequently.
So how about you pop on that Ace Ventura costume?
I will.
I'll go put on my Yoda onesie.
Great.
And then we'll have a lightsaber
wow.
battle. We'll go get some broomsticks or some brooms.
Yeah.
And we'll go have a lightsaber battle.
All right, cool.
Dude, that sounds fun.
Absolutely.
You guys gotta push that back 1 week when I'm back. And you heard that right.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if I can postpone a lightsaber battle a whole week. I mean, that's a lot of anticipation. That's a lot of build-up.
That's a lot of build-up. It is. You have to train, though.
I don't know if I can postpone a pop-up Halloween day because I've always thought about that, going trick-or-treating or like Christmas caroling in a month that does not correspond at all with the holiday that it belongs to. I would just love to see how people respond to that.
If you showed up at someone's door right now and just started singing Christmas carols or asked for candy, like trick-or-treat, I feel like they just slam the door right in your face.
Yeah, or they would just look at you and be like, excuse me?
Yeah, like you're 25 years old. You have a beard. Like, do I need to call the police? Are you going to leave me alone now?
Hey, welcome back, fellow story addicts, to episode 25 of Screenplay Junkie. Drew, Matt, and Bryan here, and we're bringing Halloween to the month of May.
And I'm ready than ever.
As Bryan said, it's May the 4th. It is May 4th, but we're going to pretend it's Halloween, and I'm ready to get scared. I'm ready to get a little spooky here.
One last comment, though. Bryan, I think this is the last episode that you're going to be on the phone for a while. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yes, finally. Finally, I'm coming home. On my way home. Some nice little vocals.
Yeah, that was sweet, dude. That was awesome. Excited to have you back, though. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'll sound normal.
So we got Halloween today. Just really quick thoughts. Do you guys like the movie? What do you think? As far as just growing up with this film, quick thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed this movie. I mean, it's a classic. It's something that your parents have seen, even like your grandparents have probably seen. It's like one of the first of its kind in like the horror genre, I guess you could argue.
Yeah, one of the first slasher films. It started that onslaught,
It's a cool movie. I mean, does it really hold in today's like world, I guess, of movies? That I could argue maybe yes, maybe no, because a lot of it is kind of boring, the movie.
Yeah, right, because you did mention last week during Big Trouble in Little China, which is a John Carpenter film. This is another John Carpenter film.
Back to back.
Yeah. You mentioned it last week, and that's what led us to wanting to do this episode today.
The movie Halloween is kind of boring, but reading the screenplay was pretty cool. I guess Michael Myers is a little bit too much of a stalker and should be more of a killer, in my opinion. He just kind of looks at people a lot.
All right.
I don't know what he's doing the whole time. He's just looking at him, thinking about him. I don't know what's going on in his thick skull, but Michael Myers is a crazy guy. I would not want to run into him in a dark alley ever.
Absolutely not.
No way. Yeah, I mean, basically nail it. I mean, as a child, I always remember that on Halloween night, this would always scare me.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And I always thought there were scenes, you know,
The Mask is terrifying.
Get your goosebumps going.
Yeah.
It gets your goosebumps going, had hair in the back of your neck, but I'm a huge fan again. Because I like the writing of it, and just the music again. John Carpenter killed it with the very suspenseful, just so eerie.
Everyone knows. Everyone can recognize the Halloween theme song.
Yeah, I like this movie. I like the script. I'll definitely be shedding some more support as to why I like it. But I just want to jump in really quickly and start talking about this one because this franchise, this Halloween franchise, is humongous. And it was very essential, like how we said earlier, to the evolution of the slasher film. Because if you've ever seen Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, you could argue...
I think it came out in 1960.
It's in the 60s. I don't remember the exact year, but...
Black and white.
I mean, that is considered one of the first type of the slasher-type films. And then Halloween was the next important one to follow. And then, of course, that's what led to like film titles like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. Those are the main ones. There's a bunch of other lesser-known ones.
Speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, just quick fun fact: I'm rocking my Nightmare on Elm Street T-shirt.
Oh, right on, man!
Just to keep the horrorness throughout the episode. I'm feeling it. I'm ready throughout the whole day.
It's weird kind of how slasher films have developed, though, because when you look back at Psycho and then Halloween, they're not really gory. There's not a lot of blood, right?
No.
It's more just about suspense. It's not about gore. And then you see movies today where it's just blood and guts. Well, and that's what people are entertained by.
And that's, like, I love Psycho and I love Halloween, but they're so different from the other films that came out later on because I think that's what they wanted to exploit, just the kill count, the goriness of it, the cheesiness. I mean, once you get down to, like, Friday the 13th Part 5, you know, you're getting a little in ridiculous type stuff where it's just like, I don't even care about the story anymore. I just want to see people get killed. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like Part 5 was like in 3D, so they're just asking for the blood and guts now.
I mean, pretty much. That's really what they banked on.
Hey, they made money.
Yeah, but Halloween.
Very, very true.
Let's come back to Halloween because there are 11 films in this franchise.
Wow. It's a franchise. It's like McDonald's. 11. This ain't your mom and pop burger joint. This is McDonald's. This is a franchise.
And they've combined to gross over $620 million worldwide, and it's currently ranked as the #1 American horror series.
Wow.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
See, now, that $620 mil, is that directed towards John Carpenter since he's the creator?
He still gets royalties, yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah, him and Deborah Hill, they get royalties from that.
Oh, yes.
From like the creation of the character or the original idea.
Yep.
Royalty checks. I mean, those got to be great. Once a month, you just literally do nothing, and you just get a check in the mail.
Well, and plus AMC Fright Fest, they always play the Halloween movies, so he's getting money from that as well. So the Halloween franchise is beloved. No matter, some of them are good. I'd say most of them are pretty bad.
Most of them are terrible.
So let's just go ahead and rattle off the movies that consist of the Halloween franchise, okay? And I want some of your guys' takes as far as, you know, you like this one, you hate this one, just really quickly, like quick hitting. So Halloween, 1978, we've already talked about that one already. That's the first one.
It's also interesting to note, like, the year. Like, how much time, like, the gap was in between each movie. Think about that. Because
you're right. This started in 1978, and the most recent Halloween to this recording is in 2018. So it's been going on for, 40 years? Yeah, 40 years.
Nice.
Halloween, first one, 1978. Halloween 2, 1981. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982.
Yeah, watch out for those witches on broomsticks. Jeez, that one sounds terrifying.
That one doesn't even have Michael Myers in it.
Oh, really?
No. Nope. That's the one about the
that's the worst one.
I actually like that one. I think that one's hilarious. Yeah, because it's about Halloween masks that, like, some guy, he's just trying to create Halloween masks to kill a bunch of children.
Oh, and isn't the music really bad in that one? They, like, changed the music?
A little bit.
Oh, all right. Maybe I gotta go back and watch it.
And there's that really goofy song, like, 8 more days till Halloween.
Yep, okay. All right, we don't got enough.
That's the commercial. Silver Shamrock. That's the name of the company. But.
Yep. Wow, that's crazy. A plot. So the plot, I just want to recap that. The plot of Halloween 3 is that kids in America are putting on masks that are cursed and making them kill people.
Well, no, it just like the mask just like
kills the kid,
like just devours you while you have it on.
Oh my god!
Essentially, yeah.
Sounds like a Goosebumps episode.
Yeah, and like it's like bugs and like snakes just come out of the masks. Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird.
It's different. They were really funny. They were branching out there. They're
it's
like,
super cheesy.
We don't need a guy in a mask knifing everybody. We're gonna be different. But then you know what they did after that? They went right back to the guy in the mask.
To Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and that came out in 1988.
So 6 years there.
They gave it some breathing room there. They went back to the drawing board. Because they probably realized the season of the witch didn't do too well.
Right, but then Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, must have been decent because Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, came out the next year in 1989.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is when they started incorporating that Laurie Strode, and then there was even a niece that Michael Myers had. Like all of a sudden, he's just going after family members now that he wants to kill.
Right, because in the original movie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, the girl that survives, the main character, like she's not related to Michael Myers at all. That was never in the plot. It was never thought of. They just took that idea later on and connected it, and that was the reason he was going after her, because it was his long lost sister.
Just to keep it going, man.
Yeah. Hey, you got to keep them going. Pump them out. Pump them out.
And then we got Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which came out in 1995. And guess who stars in this one? Paul Rudd.
Ant-Man. It's Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd. and his character is an older Tommy Doyle. And if you've seen the original Halloween, the little boy that Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis is watching is Tommy Doyle. So at this point, again, like we just said, they're just trying to pull any character they can out of the franchise, just to continue the story in any way possible. And next, there's Halloween H2O 20 years later in 1998.
Featuring Jamie Lee Curtis. They brought her back for that one.
And Josh Hartnett.
A lot of water in this one.
Yeah.
Halloween H2O.
Halloween H2O.
I mean, that's seriously what it sounds like.
Does the whole movie just take place in like a pool? Michael Myers is just like walking around in the pool.
Just playing
Marco Polo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Except he doesn't talk. Oh, man, that must suck being a mute. Not talking, Michael Myers. Like, you never talk. He must not enjoy podcasts, that's for sure.
No.
He definitely wouldn't. He'd be a terrible interview guest. If we like got him on the show, what the fuck? He wouldn't say anything.
And then we got Halloween Resurrection, which came out in 2002. And guess who that stars? Ryan Merriman. If you've listened to recent episodes of us, we did
from
Smart House.
Is that Smart House?
The Smart House kid. Apparently he was in Halloween. So he did a few rated R movies, okay?
Other than Final Destination, yeah.
Well, and the one where he was like a pedophile.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
He like was just trying to watch his aunt and uncle, make love.
Yeah. And then we got some remakes. So Rob Zombie decided to remake Halloween and Halloween 2. And those came out in 2007 and 2009. And you know what? I overall, those movies are okay to me because I think what I like what he did with that is he gave us more of a look at what Michael Myers did as a child and what led to him being a serial killer or just a killer when he got older. You know,
the first one at least, it's fucked up, man.
It is totally fucked up.
Like it's really like scary and like weird, just like what he shows and like what he does as a child.
I mean, Rob Zombie's style, he's just very gory, and I don't really. I'm not crazy about that. I just like the story of Michael Myers as a child, like getting more of a glimpse at what he was doing as a kid that led him to being a killer.
Yeah, because you want to know why, like what makes you end up wanting to kill everybody and not talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this too. Like with a name like Rob Zombie, your shit has to be gory. Like it has to be.
Yeah. And finally, and most recently, it's just titled Halloween. Came out in 2018, and that was by I forget the name of the director,
Danny
McBride helped write it, and I saw it in theaters.
I've never seen it.
I'll watch it again, but I was not a big fan of it. It just felt like a rehash to me. I've seen this already. I know who Michael Myers is. I know what he's gonna do. Can we please just step away from this?
Is it like more of like a bit? Is it like a thing based of like the original, where it's just like in high school he breaks out, like, or is it like based at a different time?
I mean, dude, at this point, you could do the math. At this point, Michael Myers, because it's current, like 2018.
He's
he's like a 60-year-old man, and he breaks out of the facility, goes back to Haddonfield does the same, does pretty much the same shit. They even have like camera shots like, oh, do you remember this? Oh, do you remember that from the original movie? It's just like, dude, like, can we just get away from this? Come on. I mean, granted, they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis, and I mean, her story is still kind of cool because she's like an old woman.
Yeah, well, and Jamie Lee Curtis is just cool in general.
Yeah.
She's a good actress.
And she's like a total badass in the film, so I appreciated that storyline. But everything else, I was just like, I just don't care. So yeah,
I feel like
that's all the films.
Michael Myers, he needs like, they should have just gave him like a self-help book when he was in like psychiatry wards and stuff.
Yeah.
He needs to figure out like a hobby, you know? Get like play the guitar, Mike.
He liked to make masks.
Well, I was about in the Rob Zombie one. Yeah, he does. He makes his own masks.
You know,
that's the one that Danny Trejo's in as well. That's what I.
Yeah, it is. You're right. He's the janitor.
If Michael Myers, if he just had a hobby, knitting, anything.
I don't know. Knitting could be pretty dangerous.
Crochet. Yeah, probably shouldn't give him any sharp objects.
No. Well, I think I'm going to do the script info later. Let's just move over to the IMDb info, eh?
Cool. So Halloween came out in October 27th, 1978. So just a few days before Halloween.
I just want to mention, I'm happy they did that. They should have done that with the first film, but I remember when later Halloween movies would come out, they would come out with them in like May or like a silly month where it's like, dude, like the title is Halloween. Have it come out in October. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, we are doing a podcast on the movie Halloween in the month of May.
Sure, but we just love movies, man.
I'll go ahead and read the log line. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night, 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again.
Good. Yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
Terrifying. So the movie was directed by John Carpenter. It was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who Deborah Hill was also a producer of the movie.
Yeah. I think she was mainly a producer. I know she has a couple writing credits, but mainly a producer, yeah.
We'll get to some more stuff she did later, but Donald Pleasance is definitely the biggest actor at the time in this movie. He plays Dr. Loomis. Then Jamie Lee Curtis plays Laurie, and everyone else is just kind of an actor that had some moments in the 70s and 80s, and yeah, I'm just going to kind of save my breath. So, they made the movie for $300,000.
Which is fire. That's amazing.
$300,000, yeah. I mean, I heard a story. John Carpenter went up to the producer, and the guy, like, signed up to do it immediately because he was like, $300,000, fixed cost. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm in.
I think that's why I appreciate this movie so much, just because it's so low budget and it's an indie film, and it's so successful.
It's one of the most successful indie films of all time because they made it for $300,000 and it's grossed worldwide $70 million.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's unreal. I feel like the movie even gives off a kind of an aspect where it could be cheaper than $300,000.
Yeah, it does.
Other than I feel like
there's nothing crazy about it.
Would you buy like property when filming? Like maybe is that like a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, while we're on the subject, I can tell you right now, half of the $300,000 was spent on cameras to film the movie.
Yeah, equipment. For sure, equipment.
Yeah. Do you guys want to get into some other trivia?
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, so the original script for Halloween was titled The Babysitter Murders. And it had the events take place over the space of several days, not just one day. And it was a budgetary decision to change the script to have everything happen on the same day. And they decided that Halloween, because it's the scariest night of the year, it would be the perfect night for Michael Myers to make his return to Haddonfield.
So they weren't even considering the title of Halloween yet. But they had the plot being on Halloween.
Basically what happened is one of the producers of Halloween had the original script for the Babysitter Murders. For the Babysitter Murders. And then gave it to John Carpenter, and he rewrote the entire thing.
Oh, really?
Just with a concept, essentially.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought this was an original idea by John Carpenter. They didn't even credit this person?
No, he's credited. I mean, this is just something I saw in the trivia. I mean, maybe it's not 100%, but yeah, John Carpenter's credit is like creating the character. So, I mean, it probably was something entirely different, but he just wanted to do like the slasher idea. And that's what Carpenter took from this Babysitter Murder script.
Okay, but I mean, I hate that title, by the way.
It's such a dumb movie. It sounds awful.
It's really bad. It sounds awful.
The Babysitter Murders. It sounds like a Lifetime movie.
Sounds like a soap opera.
Yeah. So, like, the story, I guess, is based on an experience John Carpenter had. In college, touring a psychiatric hospital, he met a child who stared at him with a look of evil, and it terrified him.
All right, that's cool.
Wow.
Real experience.
So that's what it inspired, I guess, like the child Michael Myers murder.
I mean, not cool. I mean, that's weird, but interesting.
Taking something from your life
child.
and applying it to film.
Yeah.
Okay, so Halloween wasn't the first script that John Carpenter wrote, which had a mysterious killer stalking and killing specific groups of people. Around 1977, Carpenter wrote a script called Meltdown. Meltdown. Okay, do you guys want to guess what Meltdown was about?
Yeah, you can go, Brian.
Sounds like I see it as it's like a giant factory. Someone hit the red button, and it's time to get out because meltdown's about to occur.
I could see it like two ways. I could see it like just somebody just having a mental meltdown, mental breakdown, whatever. Just some sort of like they're breaking down. Or I see it as a apocalyptic movie where the ice caps are just melting.
Okay.
Brian, you were actually like spot on. It's a power plant.
Oh my God! What? No way! This
Meltdown?
is ridiculous.
Yes,
John, look this up.
John Carpenter's script called Meltdown was about a group of scientists exploring a nuclear plant when one night, all of a sudden, all of the workers are starting to disappear, and later in the script, it's revealed that they're being killed off by a psychopath who sneaked into the plant a long time ago, and he believes he's been sent by God to destroy the power plant, and like the radiation's gotten to him. Most of the script is just this killer, right? It's just the killer stalking and killing the scientists in various ways, like picking them off one by one. Kind of like how Halloween is shot, right? Like stalking, Michael Myers stalking the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like various traps and weapons, like flamethrowers that this guy was using to kill scientists. And the ending of the script was really dark because apparently the power plant explodes and only 2 people get away. So then there's this whole nuclear fallout, and like anyone that was in the area is dead or just like suffering from terrible radiation and just going to die. I mean, isn't that awful? Doesn't that sound terrible?
I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's definitely.
I mean, the story sounds kind of cool, I guess, but like, the ending is just horrible.
Just from John Carpenter writing it, like that's definitely the product of somebody growing up in the 50s.
Yeah, true. Like, you're afraid of a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, and just radioactivity, nuclear bombs, stuff like that.
Okay,
like,
I believe that.
And just all of that like 50s sci-fi type stuff was. I mean, radiation was definitely one of the things that they utilized as a reason behind the catastrophic events.
I just thought it was funny too how the plant explodes. He just ends his whole script with like, "All right, everyone's dead," basically. All right, but let's get back to Halloween. I just wanted to bring up that other script because it influenced John Carpenter with Halloween because it's like a stalker type film, right?
Yes.
So Halloween was shot in 20 days in the spring of 1978.
Right on.
And because the film was made in the spring and Halloween takes place in the fall,
Yeah.
the crew had a really hard time getting pumpkins for the set.
All right.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You only see pumpkins in October.
Right.
You do not see them any other time.
No. Nope.
So half the $300,000 budget was spent on the Panavision cameras, right? So the film could have like this specific scope. And Donald Pleasance took up the other big chunk of the film.
I'm sure of that.
Because for 5 days of work, he was on set for 5 days. He got paid $20,000.
Wow. Woo.
$20,000.
Nice.
And
like
then
that.
I had heard that Jamie Lee Curtis for her role was only paid $8,000.
Okay.
Wow. But still.
I mean, dude, you're getting paid to do something that's a lot of fun.
Right, and that was
I'll
Jamie
take
Lee
any-
Curtis's, I think, first movie, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The body count in Halloween is 7, right? So we had Judith Myers, the sister, killed in the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's an unnamed truck driver we see killed in the movie. Or actually, we don't even see him get killed. We just see the body.
Yeah, right.
Then Michael Myers kills 2 dogs during the film. And those were I was most upset by the dogs.
I know.
Killed.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to see dog person get killed, but as far as like cinema is concerned, I
care more about the dog.
I feel like we tend to react worse when an animal gets killed than a person.
It's just less common. Linda also gets killed. Bob, they were like a couple, Linda and Bob, and then Annie is the first person to actually be killed in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some slashed worse than others, but we'll get into that.
Exactly.
We'll get into the slashings.
So as I said, Donald Pleasance, he got paid a lot of money, right? He was the most famous actor that was participating in this movie, and he confessed to John Carpenter that the main reason he took the role of Dr. Sam Loomis was because his daughter loved Carpenter's musical scores from his previous works.
Oh, okay.
What were his previous works before Halloween?
So the movie that his daughter referenced was Assault on Precinct 13.
Okay, yeah, nice.
Just to touch on the music again of Halloween, John Carpenter, he wrote the whole score. He composed it all for Halloween in 4 days.
I mean, it's in my opinion the best horror score ever made.
Oh, dude, it's great.
Yeah, everyone recognizes it. It's creepy. It's effective.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, John Carpenter, too. I mean, what a guy. I mean, this guy's a hardworking dude. He filmed the movie in 20 days, and he composed the entire score for the movie in 4 days.
I want to know how long it took them to write the screenplay.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a great
That's
question.
crazy, dude.
That's just fast, right? Isn't that just efficient work?
Yeah.
If only all of us could do that. How many podcasts could we do in a day if we worked as fast as John Carpenter does?
I don't know, man. I mean, he is a product of the USC Film School, so he knew, or I shouldn't say he knew, he knows what he's doing.
He's a guy that likes to have a bunch of control, too, so
yes,
he's probably real, like, nitty-gritty.
Right.
I guess something John Carpenter maybe doesn't have, though, is he's not as good at writing dialogue. So
yeah, something
I found was that Deborah Hill, one of the producers who is credited as co-writing the script,
yeah,
Deborah Hill wrote all of the female dialogue in the film, in the script.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going to mention. Once we started digging into the screenplay, I was going to mention that just with them being a team with the screenplay, mm-hmm. this is a presumption, but I was presuming, okay, hey, John Carpenter probably came up with most of the horror stuff, more of like the gritty type stuff.
Yeah, the camera shots, like
and Deborah Hill came up with the more of the authentic women characters, right? Which I'm sure they both did horror stuff and character type stuff. But I was saying they're both probably strong suited as Carpenter as the horror, Deborah Hill as the woman character, just because that's what they were good at.
Exactly. Yeah, John Carpenter's job was to scare you. And then, what's her name?
Deborah Hill.
Deborah Hill's job was to make you care about the people that you're seeing be scared.
Right.
So the killer in the script, we heard this over and over again. Michael Myers is referred to as the Shape. I'll say it again. He's just called the Shape.
Yeah. In the screenplay, yeah.
In the script, yeah. And the word shape, I guess, goes back to like the Salem witch trials, I guess. That's what they would call people. They would accuse you of being a witch, and they'd call you a shape.
I like the Shape. It's mysterious as far as the screenplay was concerned. I mean, because if you're reading it, you know it's Michael Myers. We all know it's Michael Myers.
Well, he's a person,
Shape.
Yeah. He's not just a shape. Like, I don't know. I didn't really like it because I was just imagining like a cube, like stalking a girl and trying to kill her, or like a triangle. Just like a geometrical figure, like Shape. I was just like, well, it's a person. Like, it's a person. It's not just like a shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they just gave it just an ambiguous term, just so that
you weren't they used the Salem witch term. They like brought that back,
just so you weren't giving it a name like Michael does this, Michael does that. It's just
because he's not a person, right? He's not a human being. This guy's so evil.
As Loomis, that's how Loomis views him, right? Yeah, I thought it was an interesting take on writing style.
7 different people portrayed the Shape too. Michael Myers in the movie, right? I think it was mainly one guy who just had the mask and like did a lot of the walking, but there was a woman who did some stuff amazingly, and then there was 5 other people.
That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something you can get away with when one of your characters is wearing a mask.
Yeah, and is mainly in the background,
right?
No close-ups. Yeah, that's interesting.
Just
interesting.
Creepily watching people do things from a distance.
Because I would imagine we were talking about this earlier, but Carpenter was probably like, "Hey, I really like how you do this, so you're going to do that in the movie the whole time, while you're going to do this.
Hey, you're really creepy at this. Hey, you're really creepy at this.
Yeah, like I mean, it's so
really
funny.
Yeah, it's just when you have a character with a mask, you can have multiple people playing that character.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Her name in the movie is Laurie Strode. Same thing in the screenplay, Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
And that is the name of John Carpenter's first girlfriend.
Well, that's weird.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Kind of weird.
I mean, because were they not together while they were doing this? Because it's just like, I'm just going to name my character after my first girlfriend.
It's just like, quit living in the past, John. Move on. My goodness. Like, Laurie Strode probably has like a family and kids, but I mean, I guess it's cool for her. Like, she has her name.
She's been immortalized.
Yeah. Kind of weird. All right, so while I just said that was kind of weird, let's move into some territory that's even weirder. So John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, the screenwriters for this, have stated many times over the years that they did not consciously set out to depict virginity as a way of defeating a rampaging killer, right? Because our character, Laurie, is the only one of her friends that's not actively engaging and having sex during the movie, right?
Yeah.
So, The reason why all these horny teens die in this movie, according to John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, is simply because they're so preoccupied with getting laid that they don't notice that there's a killer at large. And also, how about the fact that the sheriff doesn't tell his own daughter that there's a killer at large, and she's the first person to die. So there's a lot of stupidity, but either way, I mean, I just thought it was kind of interesting that Carpenter and the other writer had these like underlying themes of like sex, I guess. And Carpenter has a quote saying that Laurie, right, the one who survives, the one who beats Michael Myers, she's the girl who's the most... This is Carpenter's quote, not me. This is Carpenter's quote. She's the girl who's the most sexually uptight, and she keeps stabbing the guy with a long knife. She's sexually frustrated. She's the one that kills him, not because she's a virgin, but because she has all that sexually repressed energy, and it comes out. She uses, this is still John Carpenter talking, this is not me. She uses all those phallic symbols to kill the guy. So a knife is a phallic symbol, I guess, and a hanger wire to poke a guy's eye. Apparently that looks like a dick too to John Carpenter.
Because they're erect.
I guess so. Like everything looks like a cock to John Carpenter.
Oh my God! You see, like, okay, I understand a filmmaker, writers, they're trying to have themes and stuff like that.
It's cool to have underlying
but it's just
themes.
like, that is just such an extension. I feel like, you know.
I don't get. It's like
I would say just leave it. Like she's just, to me, she's innocent. She's nerdy.
What does he know about the sexual repressed feelings of a 17-year-old girl? Like, I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know, man. That's. If that's a quote from him, like that is that I wish I could not, like, I wish I could unhear that,
yeah,
because it's just like
going too deep. It's like, why, like, you're thinking too hard, John Carpenter. Let's just keep the movie as what it is.
Yeah, seriously.
I like the first quote where they were just too preoccupied with trying to get laid, and that's why they died. Right? That kind of made sense because they just were horny. But this whole thing about that the girl is using phallic symbols to kill Michael Myers, like, that's just wacky.
Well, I mean, that's just...
it's goofy.
Yeah, it's
too much thinking.
You're just pushing hard for something.
That's just us human beings thinking way too hard. All right, so let's talk about the Michael Myers mask. So the crew had chosen 2 masks. They had gotten down to 2, right, before they had started filming.
Yeah.
And the first was just some, like, smiling clown mask with, like, red frizzy hair. And then the other one, the one that's in the movie, is a 1975 Star Trek Captain James T. Kirk mask. So that's William Shatner's face.
Yes.
If anyone had heard that before. And they just did a few things to make it, like, creepier. I think, Drew, like you said, they got rid of the eyebrows. And then they, like, cut out some eye holes to make it bigger. And they just loved the mask because it seemed so emotionless.
Yes.
Of course, they painted it white.
They must have made it more pale, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they bought the mask for $1 from, like, a thrift store.
That really disrupted their budget.
Yeah, $300,000 budget. Oh, only $1 on the mask? Oh, this is great.
Let's do it. But to consist of his whole outfit, he's in like a mechanic.
Just a jumpsuit,
yeah.
You want to say?
Right.
Plenty of pockets for knives. He's got plenty of pockets in that jumpsuit for knives and just weapons and rope, right? Okay, so every time Michael Myers stabs someone in the movie, do you guys want to guess how they made that sound effect?
No. How did they do it?
It's a good thump. I'd say maybe like a...
They did stab. They stabbed another object. Like, they physically stabbed something and took the audio.
Lettuce.
No, a watermelon.
Okay.
Juicy, right? Kind of makes sense.
All right. I said a mattress.
And then, let's see here. All the actors on set, they had to wear their own clothes. There was no money for costume budgets, so all the actors had to just kind of figure out what their character would wear. So Jamie Lee Curtis...
Fine, that's normal.
Jamie Lee Curtis went to JCPenney and just, like, spent about... like $80, she said, for all of her clothes for the movie, and she had no problem with it.
I mean, she looks the nerdiest out of everybody.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. She had that, like, belly-high jeans on. But no, that's pretty interesting. It just goes to show, like, cheap budget, but with a good story, you can have something that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Great way to wrap it up, too. That's all the trivia.
All right, let's talk about the screenplay. Now... if you've listened to other episodes of us, sometimes we encounter screenplays that are pretty similar to the film, and this is one of them, which, I mean, that's pretty normal. There are some differences, you know, some have major differences, but this one mainly pretty similar.
I expected that going into it, for it to be pretty similar.
Yeah.
And that's what we got. But that's kind of cool. I mean, Brian, you said earlier you kind of had the script up as you were watching the movie, and you thought it was cool to like be able to read the line that the character was about to say, right?
Like some of it was a little different, like word wise, but you always caught the one that was just verbatim, and it was just kind of pleasing in a sense. But it's interesting to see where it comes from.
Right. But all the plot points in the script are in the movie.
The script info that we got here is Halloween, so as we've stated earlier, written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The date of this screenplay is April 10th, 1978, so pretty much around the time when they probably shot the film. And the script comes in at 83 pages, which the text is a little smaller than the normal font size you find in a typical screenplay, so this is probably around a 90-page screenplay because I looked at the runtime of the film. It's an hour and 31 minutes, so roughly a 91-page screenplay. So once you start reading the screenplay, actually, there is a difference right in the beginning, and it's in the opening credits. Because in the film, there's a lone jack-o'-lantern shot, and that's surrounded by darkness, and that's over the iconic Halloween music, right? But in the screenplay, they must have not thought of that yet. They were probably trying to figure things out because in the screenplay, it's listed as just a neutral featured rubber mask, which is probably just the Michael Myers mask.
Yeah, they just hadn't found it yet. I mean, it makes sense. I like the jack-o'-lantern. It's more marketable. It's Halloween, right? Everyone knows pumpkins.
I agree. I like the jack-o'-lantern way more.
It's just kind of creepy. Like, the music is creepy. Pumpkins aren't scary, but with the music playing, you're kind of just like, this pumpkin's kind of creeping me out right now.
Yeah, right?
And it's effective.
And it's like a slow zoom on the eye.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's just like, what am I in for? Like, this music's crazy.
Yep. And the music sticks, man. They really
totally
stick to that music the whole movie.
Right.
And I guess that's kind of how John Carpenter was able to do the score in 4 days. You know, it's not like there's a bunch of different music going on. It's pretty much just one theme, one type of thing going on the whole time. But it's effective. It's scary.
Let's talk about the opening scene. We start out with the story, and it's Halloween night in 1963 in Haddonfield, Illinois.
But it's not really Illinois, is it?
No.
Because they shot the movie in California, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on with the story, let's mention Illinois because we live in Illinois, and...
Yeah, proudly. We proudly live in Illinois.
This movie is supposed to take place in Illinois, but there are immediate red flags that tell you that this does not take place in Illinois. And those things are immediately that you'll notice are that there are green leaves and other foliage in October. Right, exactly. So, yeah, right on. No. Leaves are falling. They're turning brown and orange and all these colors.
And everyone's lawn in the movie, too, is completely clear of leaves as well. It's kind of odd.
And then we get another scene, and this is when Loomis is in like a phone booth, and there's just blatant mountains in the background.
Yeah, and he's supposed to just be like miles outside of the town where the story takes place.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's no mountains in Illinois. I've lived here my whole life. There's no mountains.
I didn't even notice
There's nothing to look at when you look out your car window and you drive places.
Just
corn.
Fields.
You just look at some corn, and that's about it.
And then the next one that we got that we noticed is so there's a scene later on in the movie with one of the characters, Annie, who eventually gets killed off.
The first person to get killed.
She's babysitting at a house, and there's the house, and then there's another building in the backyard, and that's where their laundry is stored.
A separate. Could you imagine that, having to walk away from your house to a separate little house just to do your laundry?
I mean, in the winter, especially below 0 temperatures, like no fool in Illinois would have that.
You got to do your laundry. You got to shovel first to be able to get to your laundry room. It sounds awful, but apparently in California that's a thing. Like, makes
nobody
sense.
would have that in Illinois. So we just wanted to brush over that really quickly.
All right, wow.
So back to what we were talking about, 1963 in Haddonfield, Illinois. What do you guys think about this opening scene? Because I love this opening scene to a horror film. I think it's awesome and iconic because there's just nothing else that exists like it, simply because of just who's involved with this scene, you know?
I know it took them 2 days to shoot it, and it's only about 3 minutes of like a continuous shot, it kind of looks like. Because the whole thing is shot from young Michael Myers' point of view.
Right. It is so experimental and creative. I love it. At this time. It came out.
It starts with him like outside of the house, right? He's like spying on his sister and the boyfriend, and then the boyfriend leaves, right? Then he goes up the stairs and just murders his sister in cold blood.
And he's 6 years old,
right?
And even with I like the idea of like using the frame of like the mask, like we're like us, the viewers, looking through the mask when he's doing the flashing. That's just like you said, very experimental. And just,
it's really cool. It's really cool. It's very unique. I mean, I can't even think of really any other movie that has like mimicked that. You know, I'm sure there are, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I mean, again, Michael Myers at this point is only 6 years old, and this came out in 1978. I'm just wondering how audience responded to that opening scene of the parents coming home, taking off this clown mask from a 6-year-old boy who's holding a bloody butcher knife because he just murdered his own sister. You know? I mean, that is insane.
It's like some Game of Thrones shit. I mean, my mind's on that just because that episode's going to come out tomorrow. But yeah, it's just something that's so incredible. It's like, wow, like, this is what I'm getting thrown into, and I'm 5 minutes into this?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I wanted to mention just one difference that I noticed as far as the description that was noted in the screenplay, because in the film, when they take the mask off of Michael, it looks like he's afraid or he's confused, like he doesn't really know what he did.
Yeah, as a kid, right? After his parents confront him after he kills his sister.
But in the screenplay, it's specifically noted that when they pull the mask off him, he's smiling. Which, I mean, that is such a small detail, but meaningful. It's humongous.
Yeah, meaningful. Which,
I mean, in the film, I wished that they would have kept that, because it's just way more creepier.
But at the same time, it's nicer. It makes sense to see him like not have emotion and just kind of be standing there, like how he was in the film.
Okay.
I understand like the not emotion thing, but the smiling is just when I was imagining reading that, it was just
that's creepy.
It was creepy as hell.
Definitely hear it, yeah.
And then into the next scene, we fast forward to October 30th, 1978, which is 15 years later than when we opened. And so Michael is only 21 years old, which is insane to me.
He's in his prime. Like, he'd be the number one pick in the NBA draft if the NBA was about murdering young people. He'd be the number one pick.
So we meet in this scene Dr. Sam Loomis, who is Donald Pleasance's character, and he's also Michael's psychiatrist. And we learn that Michael hasn't spoken a word in 15 years. So he's driving there to go meet Michael, pick him up, whatever, and all the patients at this institution are roaming the field in the dark, and it's raining, which I want to know how the hell they got out.
Yeah, they never explained it, but it's definitely not right. You don't want a bunch of mentally incapacitated people just wandering around in the rain. You don't want that.
But basically in this scene, Michael is out there, and he takes the car that they're in because Loomis gets out, and there's actually an exchange in the screenplay that we do not get in the film where a patient specifically says to Loomis, "It's all right now. He's gone. The evil is gone." Speaking of Michael, so even the patients know that Michael is a total whack job, right? I mean, that to me that was terrifying.
Hearing a whack job call another guy a whack job when you know he's a whack job.
That's a lot of whack job.
Yeah. It says a lot. It definitely says a lot. I mean, Michael Myers is a very, very evil man, and even a crazy person can see that.
Yeah. And so the next scene that we cut over to is the very next day, which is Halloween Day. We're back in Haddonfield, Illinois. And this is when we meet Lori, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and she's a 17-year-old high school girl. And also, her dad is a realtor, and in this particular scene, he tells Lori to put a key underneath the Myers' house, underneath their mat by the Myers' house, because apparently somebody's interested in buying the Myers' dilapidated, broken-down house where a murder went down.
Yeah, are they also a serial killer? Like, are they also interested in murdering people? Why would you want to buy that house? It's completely run down. It's a piece of crap.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a piece of crap.
So Lori goes over there, she puts the key underneath, and that's the first time that we get this shot of Michael watching our characters, which, by the way, I counted the amount of times that Michael, or the shape that he's referred to as in the screenplay, how many times he's in the background watching the characters, just hanging out.
Yeah, just like looking at him.
You know, whatever. He's not doing anything.
Just creeping on him.
This is when they don't know he's there. He's just watching them.
Or even sometimes they see him.
Yeah, or they do see him. They do see him sometimes. Like, Lori does see him like twice or 3 times or something. But anyways, it's about 20 times where, like, before, like when he's not killing people. They do this type of shot, and it happens about 20 times. And, I mean, to me, that's, like, really what this movie is boiled down to. It's just about a guy hanging out in the background, and that's what I think it excels in, because as an audience member, once you get introduced those first couple shots of that he's in the background watching, the rest of the movie you're looking for him, like where the hell is this guy?
Myers?
Because the characters don't know that he's there. They have no idea.
A lot of the shots that John Carpenter created too are these wide, like open shots where Michael Myers could be anywhere, right? And someone's walking down the sidewalk or they're going through their home, and it's like you said, you're just waiting for him to pop out. And that's what makes this movie so successful, because the suspense is just killer.
I mean, some of these shots of placing him in areas where maybe you wouldn't suspect him, or they just place him. It's amazing how they did it.
Yeah,
like that's what I love about this movie, because they're just placing a guy in random spots, and you're always looking out for him, but the character doesn't even know he's there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of movie that you watch, and then you go home, and you're like
looking over your shoulder,
you're opening your shower curtain, you're checking because it's creepy, like because Michael Myers is there, but you don't know he's there, so that's just kind of something that hangs over your head, right?
So I got a question for you guys. So right off the top of your head, which shot of Michael Myers, whether he's in the background or a character sees him, which one is your favorite?
I like the one you just talked about, the one where he's in the house, right when she drops off the key. It's 15 minutes into the movie, and he's just standing there in his house.
Oh, the very first one?
Watching her, yeah, because she's telling the little
it's
boy.
It's like an over-the-shoulder shot?
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, I'll put the key up in the haunted house. Like, not a problem. And he's just there. And then that's how you know, too, that he's in the town. He's already there. And then the whole movie just unfolds.
Yeah. What about you, Bryan?
I mean, there's a selection of them, yeah, but I'd probably give it to the when he's like in the laundry line.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites too. Hell yeah, that is a good one.
Great. I would the wind with the laundry, and it's just like him like in between two of them, and then he's gone within a second.
Yeah, with that one, he was like Batman, right? How Batman, like Christian Bale's
because Laurie sees him,
he can just like disappear in a second, like that. Yeah, he was like Batman on that one.
In that shot, he is seen. I do like that one. I have a couple, but I mean, my other favorite one that I have is this is when Annie's in the house that she's babysitting for, and it's like we're with the camera, and she's walking across the room, and the camera pans following her across, and behind her, like this, I don't know, this like glass door is wide open, and as she walks by, there's nothing there, right? And then it's a continuous shot, and then she walks back across the room again, and Michael all of a sudden just appears in the doorway behind her.
Nice.
I mean, it's just like I don't know, man.
I
like
with this as well, there's like a couple shots where like it completely goes over your head, like even though he was there.
Yeah, they get really good at it, but I mean, as far as like a movie that did this beforehand, there's probably some, but this one completely banks on it.
Yeah, it's suspense. It's when is he going to pop out? When is he going to do something? You're just waiting.
The next scene that we got here, we're really touching on just main plot points here, like things that we thought were funny. So this is like a scene that we thought that we thought was generally funny.
It's laughable.
Because so this is when Laurie and Annie are gonna go babysit for the houses that they're working for. Mm-hmm. So Annie picks up Laurie, and while they're driving to the houses, Annie just pulls out a joint and they start smoking. Like they're essentially hotboxing this car.
Yeah. With like no smoke though. No smoke was coming out of the joint or their mouths.
And remember, Annie's dad is the sheriff of Haddonfield. So while they're driving, Annie's like, "Oh shit! Here's my dad," because they're driving right by him, and he's hanging out by a hardware store
that was just robbed.
So they pull over and they roll down the windows, and he just sticks his head in there, like, "Hey girls, how you doing?" Like he's a cop. He doesn't even know what weed smells like. It's like, what's going on? What the hell?
Hey, I mean, this is the 70s. There was some serious swag back then, right? Serious swag.
I mean, that scene is just so funny. But then also with the dad saying, he's explaining to Annie and Laurie like what happened at the hardware store.
He's like explaining the break-in.
Because there's an alarm going off, and he's just like, "Oh, it was just kids. You know, they stole a mask, some rope, and a couple knives. Like, don't worry about it." It's just like, dude, like, are you kidding me?
A mask, some rope, and a few knives.
Like, come on.
Red flag.
Hey, I'm not interested in murdering anyone. I'm just gonna go. I'm just a kid. I'm just a hooligan. Like, oh, what a terrible cop.
This is where Michael's supposedly got the white the Shatner mask. I'm assuming. Or
yeah,
what?
That is where he got it. Yeah.
I never thought of that. Yeah, they never explained where he gets the mask.
That's where he got it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Has to.
Okay, cool.
And then the next scene that we want to talk about this is mainly just as far as structure of the film, because like we said, the kill count is 7, and it's mainly a suspenseful film as opposed to a lot of other slashers movies that came out after this one, because Halloween is a very slow movie. An example of this is because the first on-screen kill that we get, as far as the screenplay is concerned, page count-wise, is on page 51 of an 83-page screenplay.
You're 2/3 of the way through, and then something happens.
18 pages left of the screenplay for this story to unfold, and you're just killing the first person on screen. I mean, this is early slasher type stuff. I mean, probably even before slasher was coined. So this movie was not concerned with killing their characters. It was mainly concerned with the suspense.
Suspense, right? So just saying that, right? For a recipe for success, right? Because entertainment nowadays, like, people want to see people getting killed. Why? I don't know. But if you're going to say you have to wait till 2/3 of this movie is over to see the killer actually kill someone, like, that doesn't sound very intriguing to me.
It wouldn't fly.
But because of how they did the movie and with the suspense and with all those shots of him watching, waiting, right?
Yeah.
That's what made the movie successful, because all those people that went and saw this movie in theaters, they were sitting there
terrified,
yelling at the thing, like, don't go in that house, like, don't go there.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so successful, because people want us. Maybe it was the first time that they had the opportunity to do that. Like,
I don't know.
This type of movie.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's why it's so interesting. The next scene that we have noted here is there's actually a really cool Easter egg as far as John Carpenter's career is concerned, because this was mentioned in the screenplay and it's also in the film as well. And that was because there's a specific scene in both the screenplay and the film when Lori, Tommy, and Lindsay, all of these characters, they're in a house watching TV, and on the TV is the movie The Thing from Another World, which is a sci-fi horror from the 1950s, and later on in Carpenter's career in 1982, he remade it into The Thing, which
is awesome. Yeah, which is one of the greatest, like, what was it called? Like, special effects, like natural special effects. Is that what they call it?
Practical.
Yeah, practical. So no CGI, no computers. They just were able to make, like, these cool ass special effects in that movie, and it's got Kurt Russell in it. It's awesome.
Wow, I didn't know it was a remake.
It is. I mean, I probably didn't know that either, like, up until a couple of years ago. I mean, because we watched it. I remember we watched it, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, and it's just a goofy 50s movie. But
because when watching Halloween, I saw it on the TV, and I was like, oh, like, that's like a little
nod to himself.
John Carpenter. I didn't realize it was after.
It was a nod to his future self, essentially,
right.
because
which is that's just unbelievable that how that worked out as far as the timeline of his career.
Yeah, right.
We also want to mention how Lindsay Wallace's house. So this is
Annie,
the little girl who,
the house that Annie was babysitting.
Yeah, her house just gets completely disrespected in the film. Like, as far as this is basically where all the horror stuff happens.
It's where everybody
Michael
dies.
Myers.
It's basically where all the main characters, like, all those teenagers, are getting killed.
But some other, like, hilarious things happen in the house as well, where it's just like, if you were this age, like, I don't know how you could just allow yourself to do this. Because what do you got, man? I know you wanted to bring this up. Which is they're just going in there. They're boozing at the house. They're having sex in the house.
Yeah. Like, the teenagers. So first of all, like, you're a parent and you're trusting a kid to come over and babysit your kid, but in reality, they're just putting the kid in front of the TV, inviting their significant other over, so they can just have sex on your couch or your bed. And, like, the one guy, Bob, who gets the worst death in the movie, he gets picked up by Michael Myers, right, and strangled and then stabbed into the wall. Or,
he
like,
just gets impaled, to the wall.
He's going around.
Talk about a knife plunge for being able to go through a body and through drywall and have him stay on the wall.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's crazy stuff. But this Bob guy, before he's killed, he's just going around the Wallace's house and just taking their beer. He's eating their chips. I mean, they're smoking cigarettes in the parents' bed.
Oh my god, hilarious!
I mean, what the fuck? Honestly, like, that's so disrespectful. And then Michael Myers has to come in and make a mess of everybody. Even more disrespectful.
Well, I mean, he's 21. He's able to drink, so at least he's of age.
How about the fact that he threw a gravestone on the parents' bed too? Like, that had to be pretty dirty. Maybe some worms, some dirt.
Like, speaking of, like, I really like the scene when he puts the bedsheet on with Bob's glasses.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
Just a nice, like, little fear touch where it's like, who is it? It's Bob, but you know it's not Bob.
Either way, I mean, that scene was pretty crazy. We just wanted to bring up that the Wallace's house, this house, just became the total house of horrors. This is where Michael Myers did his murders. This is where the teenagers were being delinquents.
Yeah.
It's just where a lot of things went down.
I mean, yeah, if you're the parents coming back to this house, it's just like, we're never going out again.
At least your daughter's safe, though. Lindsay is safe.
Did you have something to add, Brian?
Yeah, no, I was just laughing, Matt. You were just saying just teenagers being delinquents at one location. And then you think it's like, yeah, you know, I feel like everybody has, so they have that one location.
Yeah, except usually that one location wasn't featured a child being babysat.
No.
It was usually an open house, not a house with an 8-year-old that has to be in bed by 9 o'clock.
That's very true.
No big deal. But it ultimately comes down to page 70, as the screenplay is concerned, page 70 out of 83, when Laurie knows that she's actually in danger. So she has 13 minutes with the actual killer.
Because she goes to the Wallace's house and finds her friends all killed.
Yeah, she goes to
in the
fun
parents'
house,
bedroom.
yeah.
The parents' bedroom is scarred. It's forever. It's done.
Yeah, they're moving out.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe they'll move into the Myers house. I don't know.
It's a fixer-upper.
But one last thing that I wanted to talk about between the film and the screenplay was at the very end when Laurie rips the mask from Michael's face. And in the screenplay, his features are described as inhuman, which you can think of whatever you want. That's so subjective of what you want to think of. And in the film, he just has like a weird looking eye. You know, I pictured something way more grotesque.
Right. Well, because she stabbed him with a hanger in the eye.
Okay.
So his eye was all messed up.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like. I thought he'd look like some like the hills have eyes kind of guy. You know, something like definitely not human. Yeah. Maybe that's like my one critique of where they had an idea in the screenplay, what description they were going for, and they just could not fulfill that on screen because he looked like a normal guy to me, you know.
And he shouldn't because he's a monster. He should look like a monster.
Because yeah, I mean the whole movie he's just hiding behind a mask, which completely erases the human element of him. And then once finally you reveal what he looks like, I mean it could go either ways. Either he looks like a monster, or he's the ironic part of it that he looks normal.
He's a human, yeah, but like. He is a monster, but you know,
sure.
Like
if we want to get John Carpenter deep about it,
psychological probably behind it.
Yeah. Do you want to get in these questions, Matt?
2 questions I just need to ask, like plot holes about this movie is A, how could Mike Myers drive a car 150 miles from his psychiatry place all the way to Haddonfield if the only education he had was up to 6 years old and then he never spoke again? How could he drive a car and navigate his ass all the way to his hometown?
That someone taught him.
Well, I actually looked this up and I found a real answer. So what like fan people say and like maybe something Carpenter released is that he learned how to drive from all the years watching the doctor drive him, and he was able to look
when he was in the back.
So he would just watch him in the back and just like, you know, he's just taking mental repetitions. He was taking mental practice on how to drive.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean that is interesting, but I do not think that's possible.
No, neither do I.
Like you can memorize the
steps,
the steps, but it's the feel of it. No,
you'll lack the feel, no doubt.
Anyways, at least they brought that up because somebody specifically was like, "How does he know how to drive?" Loomis was like, "He taught, or someone must have taught him." You know, at least they like called themselves out for that plot hole.
Loomis said someone must have taught him, but he taught him because he was watching Loomis drive. Yeah, talk about a mental pretzel right there, but. The other thing I want to talk about is also car related. I want to talk about how Loomis's car, right, the doctor's car was stolen by Michael Myers in the beginning. Why didn't he tell the cops of the town what his car looked like, the station wagon?
Right.
So they could just identify the car, pull Mike Myers over, and I mean, I guess there'd be no movie, but it's just like you got to report a stolen car, man. That's common knowledge.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with that. You gotta wonder if they had to have thought about that.
It's a movie. I mean, there's gonna be plot holes. It's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie. Yeah.
Brian, do you got any brain busters?
This time, I got some for us here.
Oh,
go ahead and grab my novel of Busters here. Let me open up my book.
Awesome. Open up your book.
Your book of Busters? Is it a bag of Busters or just a book of Busters or like a binder of Busters? Maybe like a box of Busters?
Like a baker's dozen of Busters.
All right. I'm ready to get bamboozled.
Right. Do you think the emotion fear is the hardest one to provoke to a viewer?
I don't know, because something like a jump scare can make someone scared, and that can happen so quickly, right?
Yeah,
So maybe fear, from like as a filmmaker, maybe fear is maybe kind of easy in some ways to provoke in quick ways, but if it's like a long developed type fear, then it's harder. I don't know. That's a good question.
I definitely think there's talent that needs to be involved in it. But I also think fear is a really good area to exploit as far as an audience member is concerned, because fear is very primal to humans.
Fight or flight, right?
If you're presenting somebody with something and they have no idea what's going on and they want to know more, I think it's technique, and I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time describe it, but I don't think it's as difficult as it sounds.
I think because jump scares exist, then my answer to your question is getting an audience to feel fear isn't that hard, because you can do a jump scare.
Well, I hate jump scares. I think jump scares are cheap.
But sometimes they're scary. Sometimes they get you.
Yeah.
Look at like happiness or like love or something, you know. I feel like fear would definitely be just a little bit harder.
I think comedy is the hardest. Comedy is the hardest. I'd say
laugh.
fear.
Yeah,
Fear is pretty easy, because all you're doing is just playing with somebody's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That's the root of it. That's all you're really doing. They're trying to predict what's going to happen, and it's really up to the writer, director, everyone who's involved on making the film to just make the audience question what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'd say that's my response.
That's a wild question, man. Thank you, Brian. That's a good one.
That was a good one.
So yeah, I guess number 2 here we're looking at. I was thinking about the evolution of horror films, and just to kind of, you think that like the slasher film was most successful in the 1980s, or do you think there could be one coming soon that could just really put slasher films back up, rather than like, because we have a bunch of paranormal now? I'd say it's like our era.
Oh, dude,
it is paranormal.
First. I think the 80s was the heyday. Like, just because CGI now, everyone wants this crazy like explosions and like. Everyone wants to be wowed with computer images and stuff, whereas in the 80s, they just had to use practical effects like we were talking about earlier, and they had to try to scare you in a way that was creative, right? They had to really try to bend their rules and figure out new ways to make camera shots work and different things like that. So I think the heyday of the slashers was the 80s, like Jason, right? Freddy Krueger, Mike Myers, Leatherface, like all those came out at that time. Chucky, yeah.
There's so many.
And the practical effects, in my opinion, are what make those like so great. Like, could you imagine just like a CGI creature running around killing people with like a knife, like a CGI Mike Myers? Like, would that be cool?
Oh, geez. No way.
They have to go back. I mean, the movie that we mentioned earlier that we thought was like the most recent was Happy Death Day. Is that it?
Yeah,
because
I haven't seen it.
I don't think none of us have seen it, so we really have no idea.
It's like Groundhog Day combined with just a slasher movie.
No, I agree. 80s heyday slasher film. But I also believe that trends are coming in and out. I mean, right now we're in the paranormal type thing, but I believe slashers will come back at some point.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally ready for that.
For some reason, people like watching other people die. It's not going to change.
No.
Or don't like it, but they get something out of it. They want to see it.
Yeah.
And to wrap it up here, do you think writing is more important towards a horror film, or like the sound?
I'd say both are equally important. The writing needs to be there, the sound needs to be there, the directing needs to be there. Everyone needs to be working, like all cylinders need to be on fire at the same point. One cannot be greater than the other, which, I mean, that happens.
Is horror movies in horror movies, does music matter the most than any other type of genre? Because the music in a horror movie adds to the horror, right? It can add to suspense. It can make you jump. It can make you the hair on your arms stand up.
I would say the music in a horror film is the most important, like separate than a musical.
Oh yeah, nice.
But horror for sure.
Yeah,
totally.
It just adds to the element. It adds to the suspense. It builds things up, or it breaks something down.
Yes,
it's cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like I definitely just answered my own question in my head, because you don't have a horror score without the written idea. Like, I don't think there's been a song written. You're like, dude, I got this crazy horror film. You know,
right?
Maybe.
I'll connect it to what we were talking about with John Carpenter earlier, right? He filmed the movie in 20 days, but then he went back probably after he filmed it and then did the score, and he was able to do it in 4 days, which is crazy. But yeah, that's probably what they do. They film the movie, then they're like, okay,
this is the vibe.
This is the vibe here. We need to build up music here. Here we don't need any music at all because there's nothing scary. Stuff like that.
It could be opposite as well, though. Like someone who's just good at making music could make something, and it's like the filmmaker hears it and is like, "Oh, that would work perfectly for my film." But I think it's more of making the film first. I mean, unless you're like a John Carpenter, who's the director, who's the writer, who's the guy who's making the music,
Control
so
freak.
he completely understands what kind of movie he's trying to make, that he can tailor it to whatever he wants. So yeah, and our dog is barking.
Yeah, she is. She's going harder.
Maybe Mike Myers is out there.
All right, good stuff, guys. What are your final thoughts about Halloween?
I'll take this one first. I know I definitely liked reading the script better than watching the film on this one. It's just because I think my own imagination just was kind of cooler to see as I read through the script, like imagining kind of maybe what more Michael Myers looked like or where he was, like where things were taking place. And just like I said, the movie is just kind of boring. Like nothing happens. It's kind of frustrating sometimes, especially like the first girl. Like I'll talk about the scene when she's in the outdoor laundry room, right? Yeah. It's just like Michael Myers like locks her in the room and then just does nothing after that. It's like what? Like why? Like you had your
just
opportunity.
More of the suspense thing, yeah.
Right, exactly. But I just have problems with how nothing happens. I guess maybe I'm just too. I'm such a millennial. I just need to be entertained nonstop.
Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, I'm a huge fan. Like John Carpenter, like he writes horror real well. I agree, Matt. Totally reading it, you just get a whole other different feel because your imagination just runs differently in how you. I always picture like how would I shoot this part, you know, like what would I see the camera doing? Yeah. And that's just like another fun aspect to it. But again, just like big music guy, I love like this is probably one of my favorite stories of all time. Not maybe even the number one. I could probably name you another one. Other than Conjuring one, I think is pretty eerie when it comes to like paranormal. But other than that, I'd probably this movie Halloween like 3 out of 5. Pretty good horror. It gets me excited. It's like one of those I always watch on Halloween. So,
do you think it like lasts like even though it was made in 1978? Does this movie like stand tall today? If you were to show it to someone like one of your friends who had never seen it, would they like it?
They probably it's cheesy. It's more of like one of those. What did you call it?
A cult.
A cult movie. I guess you'd say it's a cult.
See, but it's not a cult movie because it had a great success in theaters when it came out. It's something that our parents, it's something that older generations really love and appreciate. And being younger, because the movie's older, that's why I asked you that, because I wanted to know if your roommates watched it with you, did they like it? Because it's old. It's it's not the same as movies today.
Yeah, none of them watch it with me, but they all have seen it, no doubt.
And I mean, everybody, since like the movies that have come out since Halloween, everyone's been desensitized and used to other type of horror that has come out since then. So
they expect more.
It's understandable to where Halloween could not be viewed as a similar movie than when it came out. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, but you have to realize that it was the first. It's one of it's a pioneer.
Right. For me overall, I really like the screenplay in the movie. Another point where we were just talking about as far as a horror film today, I think it's just more creepy and suspenseful than scary. However, when I was younger, thinking of this movie, it did scare the hell out of me.
The Mask. The Mask. When you're a kid and you see that, some big guy, it's creepy.
And I'm sure it scared the hell out of the audiences when it came out in 1978. Like it had to. It absolutely did. And overall, I think the story is strong. However, I really think the directing and the music are what the strengths are that make Halloween what it is. Mm-hmm. And also, like we said earlier, Halloween is such an interesting film in cinema history because it, and I should also mention Psycho, they are basically the catalyst that started the slasher genre that exploded in the 80s. And as far as my own writing is concerned, I've written a short script about someone being stalked by a killer, so Halloween was easily a template that I refer to.
The Walk?
Yeah, The Walk, yeah. Just something as simple as meeting somebody while walking your dog. That's what the story's about.
And you think they're your neighbor, right?
Yeah, just somebody who's...
Because they're walking their dog in your neighborhood, you just assume they're your neighbor.
Yeah, and it's a boy and a girl, and the girl starts to like the guy, and the guy turns out to be a crazy dude. Essentially what it's about.
Dating.
Based on a true story.
But nothing I've experienced.
No, but I had just one more thought about Halloween. It's really just goes to show like simplicity goes a long way, like with their budget, of course, and just like the score. Even like the score is so simple.
Yeah.
And It's just simplicity. It's a true fact.
Dude, I mean, overall, I dig it. We dig it.
No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, if you have any recommendations of screenplays we should read, movies we should watch, or really anything, let us know on any of our platforms. We're always looking for other things to check out. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the 2004 goofy comedy that stars John Heder, Napoleon Dynamite. Thank you for listening. We hope you can join us next time.